Welcome to Concussed, Understanding the Invisible Injury. Very important topic tonight. I'm going to be talking to a good friend of mine who I met 7 years ago at Jim Thompson's Dreams Do Come True camp. Obviously, he played a little hockey with the Tigers, but more importantly, this gentleman is coming on to talk to us about he's a goalie. We won't hold that against him, as is our producer, Jordan. We had a little chat beforehand. I apologize. I think I cut myself shaving. I apologize. There's my personal story. I got myself shaving this morning. Listen, I want to. This is a serious topic, but when you meet Ian, he's a funny guy. So we'll talk serious. We'll also have some lighthearted conversation. Just trying to understand that concussions are a sexy word for brain injury, but as important to understand that they don't know age, they don't know gender, they don't know activity, and they certainly don't take weekends off. And we'll hear from Ian how he sustained his third or fourth. He can't remember because he's had so many. He's had a couple in playing as a goalie. As we know, Jordan lived through that too. And then his last one just happened recently, and we'll hear his story. And we'll get rid of this myth that concussions are a sports injury. It's not. It's not. Throw that out. You can get concussed falling downstairs, falling off a bike, banging into a wall, or as what's happened to Ian, and he'll let us know. Ian Smith. How you doing, buddy?
I'm very well as can be expected for being in a car crash last week. But
Well, I really appreciate you coming on. I was thinking on having Scott Holler on tonight because he had just got back from vacation, and Scott runs Shift Concussion Management. And then I thought about your story a little bit more because one of the things that we struggle with is there's a lot of people, especially with the pandemic, they think nobody's playing sports, there's no more concussions, right? A foolish thought because this is not, as we know, a sport injury. And when you called me and told me that you were in a car accident, and it's amazing where the car accident was. Walk us through, before we get into that, your personal history, obviously being a goalie, playing and wanting to, play at a high level. Obviously, you went through Jimmy Thompson's camp. You must have sustained concussions. Walk us through all that.
yeah. So grew up in the Toronto area playing hockey. Same as every other kid, had the dream. Played at Everest Academy a bit. Was at Jim's camp. Really enjoyed minor hockey. It was a lot of fun. Played double, single A hockey most of my life, and ended up having a pretty severe concussion while practicing in a practice game, and that really affected my look on playing the game.
Well, of course, a lot of people don't take in consideration the goaltender having a concussion. We always think about it being the forwards, these big crushing blows. But Jordan talked to us about his situation. It kind of ended his career, his hopes to go farther. And of course, what's really important, it also can derail any type of other interests you have outside of it. And as he was very blessed to be able to go to journalism college and now is obviously producing shows like this and, of course, our Gooch Live. And this show tonight, Concussed, is being brought to you by the great people at the Fired Up Network. Um, Talk to us about that, the misconception. Did anybody ever talk to you? Hey, listen, Ian, as a goaltender, you can sustain concussions by being down low, taking the shot, or that one that's really bad is, I know Carey Price has had it, where he's got his head down and they come and they give you that rotational concussion. Did anybody prepare you for this as you were starting to become a better goaltender?
I don't think anybody really, mentioned it to me too much until we got up to the higher levels when, the shots started getting harder. You take one square to the face and it hurts. And it's definitely not the time. Like, I didn't know at the time, but you go from being this guy who's not scared of the puck to when you realize what the puck can do when it's coming off the stick at 80 miles an hour, it starts to be a little scary. And nobody prepared me for that.
Well, obviously, if you're playing against me, the puck's coming at you at 30 miles an hour. But I picked the corner, so you wouldn't have to worry. It wouldn't hit you anyways. Listen, the myth, of course, with goaltenders, you guys are crazy in the first place. Having guys like Ally afraid he shoot a puck at 107 miles an hour, you have to be a little crazy. When you took your first concussion, if you recall this situation, obviously it was back a few years ago. We weren't really on top of it as much as we should have been. Now we're getting closer to it to understand when you're not right, sit out, pull out, and also we now get the coaching staffs, management, administrators, doctors, trainers to understand it more. Yet we're going to talk about you in a few minutes, your journey this last trip. Talk to us about the information that was around you then. You got a concussion playing, and then you had to get some help. What happened? Who took care of you? Who guided your concussion management?
Yeah, so back then, I was when I got my first concussion, it was a puck that hit me while I was looking the other way for whatever reason, square in the side of the head. Goalie helmets don't do well for side impacts. They're really not designed for that, as I learned. And I fell over at the time. Don't know if I lost consciousness. It was such a long time ago. But when it occurred, it was sit in a dark room. It was, watch yourself, take a few days off. But there was no real protocol that I was following at the time. Um, I wish there was, because I think I would be in a better place, or at the time I would have been in a better place when playing hockey after that,
Right.
if there was a protocol.
Well, that's the issue here that we just don't, even still today, it's a little bit difficult because there are so many people that you go to, and we'll talk about your personal experience right now. Obviously, you've gone through playing hockey as a goaltender. You're still very active. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you play 2 to 3 times a week. And we're going to walk through this whole process right now. You got a hold of me just out of the blue. You knew me from back then and knew I had a little bit of expertise in concussion. So, number one, thank you for believing in me and helping you through this. But the most important part, the reason why I wanted you on today, people do not realize you were in a car accident, like in a fairly serious car accident, only a couple of days ago. And I think the impact, not of the hit, but the fact that you're on this show and able to communicate and give us an understanding what you've just gone through over the past couple of days is so important, because your concussion this time has been created by the fact that somebody didn't put their foot on a brake. So now people realize, hang on a sec here, it can happen in a car accident. It can happen falling downstairs. Walk us through, I guess it would be 72, 84 hours of your life. Bring us back and explain to us what happened.
Yeah, so that Monday morning, typical Monday morning, got up to go to work. Was raining, wasn't a nice morning. I ended up getting on the highway. Traffic was slow, rain was slowing everybody down. I was taking it easy, making sure to leave room and be cautious, because driving that early in the morning, nobody's really awake. And unfortunately, it came to a stop on the 401, in a line of cars. Didn't hit anybody, and then I had a brief look in my rearview mirror when we came to a stop, and I could see a car moving at a pretty high rate of speed. And the first thing that went through my head was, this is going to hurt, because he's not stopping. And it was a little strange, because for a second I was like, did he miss me? Did he swerve? And then half a second later, the impact
Oh,
felt, car spun, my head bounced against the headrest a couple times, even though it was on the headrest, when I got hit. And being somebody who's had concussions before, about an hour after, that's when I really was like, I got a concussion.
yeah. So before we get into your journey, I do want to tell you something. This, what you just described, almost happened to me, and I was the guy that was in the Mustang. I picked up one of my friends from Germany, a young man. He was in the back seat. I was driving a minivan. The phone rang. I went to pick the phone up. My wife was in the passenger seat, and she gooch, and I slammed on the brakes. I'm telling you, he was in the back seat with a seatbelt. He actually kissed the back of my ear. That's how much of the
Wow.
stop made. We didn't hit anybody, thank God. And this was about, I would say, 5, 6 years ago. And I have to admit, I was bad, really bad with the phone. I am so much better. I really have to control myself. And I'll tell you what, this is a message for all of you. Ian, thank God you're okay. We will get you through this concussion. I could have killed somebody. I could have hurt somebody. That guy in the Mustang could have hurt somebody. Let's take time. Let's make sure we don't use our cell phones in those type of situations. And I will try better and be better because it can result in what has happened to you. We don't know if he had a cell phone, so please don't take it as that. I'm only telling you that story. We have to be more cautious and careful when we're driving. Now, you're hurt. You realize in an hour you've got some issues going on. What was your first reaction? What kicked in?
It was sort of the feeling of, not, it was disorientation, but not dizziness. I definitely, like, I felt the, moving, the sudden onset of a headache, not like a localized headache, but, you're not your standard migraine, something that you feel your whole head, it starts throbbing. You start feeling like you're not all there, and you don't feel pain in the rest of your body. Like I got hit at roughly 100K, and I couldn't feel whether I was hurt anywhere else. I couldn't feel tightness. I wasn't sure what was going on. And I'd felt that sort of disorientation before, and the last time is when I had a concussion from hockey.
Wow. Listen, there's a question. We're not going to bring it up right now. Just hang on. Yes, please leave that there. Barry Shelley has a question. I'm going to leave that till the end because I'm going to bring Jordan up for a few minutes with you, and we're going to talk about this very important topic, if you don't mind. And Jordan, if this is a call out, you don't have to worry about your green screen. I think it's a really important question for you as goaltenders. For anybody that has a goaltender in your family, I want you to hear this answer to this question. But first, let's go to Jeff Lieberman. Thank you for being a part of our show. Couple of thoughts that are coming out here. Obviously, up front it says, "Why is it so hard for NHL?" Again, that's a hockey question. We don't know those answers. We'll talk to you and Jordan about that at the end of the show. It's very fuzzy why nobody's really doing something about. It's basically all goaltenders. Again, it's a goalie question. And then the last one is Jeff Lieberman, who's a great guy. He really believes in concussion. Ian sending prayers, blessing, healing, vibes. So now
Thanks,
you're
Jeff.
in the situation. You're not panicked. You're calm, and you decide to do what?
Once we got everything sorted out, went home, took the afternoon off. I like just getting the car to the collision center, and getting a rental car that I probably at that point in time shouldn't have driven home, but I was still in shock.
Yeah.
Things were not going through my brain properly. Drove home really gently, got home, lay down. And like I could feel by the time I got home, this was not going to be a couple day recovery. This is going to be a couple weeks for sure.
So then now you're at home. You're feeling this, probably getting a wave of anxiety too, and because you've been there before, not knowing where this is going to take you. What do you do then?
For me, it was because I'd experienced the protocol in my severe concussion. I was starting to look for help. I was starting to, phone for doctor's appointments, which is not easy these days, with COVID, and the getting finding a doctor's appointment with all the practices that are in place it's a little tricky right now. So I wanted to get checked after, that kind of an impact. And then it was also like pain management, take a few Tylenol, try and relax. And I at that point in time, I still wasn't sure if there was anything else wrong with me.
Well, obviously, we want to do a shout out here for Scott Holler with Shift Concussion Management. There are people to call today, so we're going to make sure that people understand that Scott at Shift Concussion Management is 24/7. You can do virtual calls. So we are going to make sure Scott's actually watching the show, and he will be dealing with you tomorrow. We're going to have a call. He's trying to get you in tomorrow, if not on Thursday, and just to check up because we're going to hear about how you're feeling now. So now you're in this situation. You know that you probably have to go and get help. So you decide that you're going to go to the hospital, if I'm correctly correct.
Yeah, so I first actually seeked a standard doctor's visit to get checked out, see if there was anything else actually wrong. You know, that didn't the doctor who I saw, no offense to him, clearly was not aware of any concussion protocol. He did not warn me. I did inform him of the headache, and he said, "Yeah, you're probably experiencing some whiplash and a possible concussion." And after that, I still had the headache. You know, Tylenol is it's only it's a band-aid. It's not really a
Yes,
cure.
yeah,
And
masks.
at that point in time, I was like, okay, if I feel like this tomorrow morning, I'm going to the hospital in the morning.
So you had a rough sleep, you woke up in the morning, then you realized you had to go. The reason why we're walking through it is because there are a lot of people that have never had a concussion. So it's really good. You at least had some experience to it. You know, somebody saying it's whiplash. A lot of concussions have the same symptoms as whiplash. So it's really important to try and differentiate. And that's why you need to see somebody, you know, that first 24 to 48 hours, it's not that bad if all you're doing is, you know, calming the brain and not overwhelming yourself. And then there's new protocols. It's no longer you don't sit in darkness for 7 days or 10 days like they
Yeah.
say now. Now you get to see an expert, and they will manage it. They'll properly diagnose it. They'll find out what exactly is wrong with you. The reason why I want to ask you about the hospital again, we're not here to lay any blame, but now you go to the hospital. How long do you sit in the waiting room?
I was probably in the waiting or the multiple waiting rooms for between 45 to an hour. It was fairly busy that morning. It may have been longer. You know, your sense of time while you're feeling like that is not exactly great.
Well, you did
Um,
really good if you're only in the waiting room for an hour and a doctor actually saw you. That's impeccable. So we'll give him that. Now, obviously, the doctor comes in and sees you. What went on? What was the how did they deal with you?
yeah, so he was, he knew I was in a car crash. That was the first thing I told him when I was in there. He was very happy that I came to the hospital. He was like, "Yeah, going to your local doctor is great, but we have facilities here to help people who've been in that kind of situation. And if there is something seriously wrong, it's good you're here now." He did a bit of a physical on me. He tried to see if there was any pain on my body because I told him I had some numbness. I wasn't really sure what was going on, and he said, "Yeah, it's not uncommon if you're experiencing, what sounds like a concussion. You've had them before. You're describing it accurately." And then he's like, "Yeah." So he tested my reflexes, made sure I was still kicking, and was like, "Okay, so based on everything I see, you're describing a concussion, and we're gonna get you to a CT scan to make sure there's no brain bleed. There's nothing beyond a concussion going on where you may need to have further treatment."
And that's so important. I think that was absolutely impeccable by the doctor. We know that a CAT scan is not going to see a concussion. It's something that you can't see because it's uh, a functional issue. Whereas structurally, what they're doing with a CAT scan, everybody says as soon as they get a knock to the head, they want to go and get a CAT scan or an MRI. It's not necessarily needed if you're diagnosed properly right at the scene of the accident and they can tell. And then if things change, then obviously the CAT scan, which happened to you, which was well done, is that he put you through that to eliminate the fact that he wasn't doing it because he wanted to see whether or not he had a concussion. He was doing it for exactly what you said, the brain bleed. And this can be a very slow process. So it's really good. All right, now you get the CAT scan. He gives you the information. What do you do next?
After that, he advised me, painkillers obviously can help. He said, you're not a small guy, up the dosage because you were complaining that it wasn't helping. And he said, you gotta, take it easy. You can't, stay away from screens, which is difficult these days to begin with.
Yeah, of course.
You're listening to them say that while the hospital's filled with screens these days, um, and
And
then
they're texting you.
yeah, all your friends are messaging you on the phone,
Yeah, yeah,
asking you if you're
yeah,
okay. The phone
yeah,
is
yeah,
hurting your eyes because you're sensitive to light,
yeah,
which was another symptom. I was definitely, I've experienced that before, and I know what that's like. And the sort of disorientation. And when I went home, I took it easy, stayed away from screens as much as possible, was taking, time for myself to relax and heal. Friday, I was, sitting in the dark trying to block out any of the sort of the distractions that would cause pain and just sort of relax and come to terms with what happened and
yeah,
make sure there's nothing else wrong with me because I'm even at this point in time I gotta go see a physiotherapist, make sure there's no muscular
yeah.
issues in my neck or back, and I'm still unsure.
All right. So now the consensus is you've got a concussion. You're relaxed. You're trying now to see how do I get better. You're a goalie, so you automatically your thoughts are I want to go back. And so why did you call me? Why did you seek me?
I sought you out. I think it was probably Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday. Can't really remember. I knew that from my previous concussions where I didn't seek treatment immediately, it ended up being worse. And when you're concussed, you're in this sort of state of denial. You're not really sure what's going on. But from experience, having done this before, I was like, I need somebody who knows to tell me I'm okay to go back to playing hockey, go back to doing the things that I love to do, going working out, like go back to a normal routine. And without that kind of guidance and help, which I knew, Carrie, based on your work, you could help me find, I would be able to get there, as fast as possible and as safely as possible.
Yeah, and then of course you talked to me. I got a hold of Scott. Unfortunately, he was on holidays. He's back now. So uh, as I listen to you, I'm not a doctor. Everybody must understand that, but I do know a little bit about it. So we just gave you some time. It's actually working. It seems like, gosh, from what you've done, I know you wanted to go back to hockey, and I just said, you know what? Think about it for a second. Are you really ready to go back? And it wasn't me telling you not to go play. You knew yourself. It's not some,
Yeah.
but the reason why I'm walking through this is because there are some people that are in your position that don't have anybody. They don't know. They've gone to the doctor. The doctor said, take it easy for a couple of days. What does that mean? Like, what do you mean take it easy? Stay off the phone. Stay in darkness. That could create. Try and stay off the phone for 24 hours. You're in depression. Like you got
Yeah.
anxiety. So it must be really difficult because you've got a job and you want to make sure that you keep up. You want to go and see your buddies at the game. And so it's really important for people to understand you need to get proper advice. So thank you for that and giving us a shout out. But it's really Scott Holler that's giving me the ability to be confident. I've lived through it. Jordan's lived through it. Now you've lived through it for a couple times. We just have to make sure people understand that if you have these feelings and these symptoms, there is help. Don't try and battle through it. Don't suck it up. Even you're male, female, boy, girl, man, or woman, you need to seek proper help and get the proper guidance. No disrespect to the hospital. They tell you got a concussion, they send you home. Did they send you home with any literature to say, hey, listen, over the next 72 hours, you should feel this. If you feel that, come back, all that. That's what we need to do as a society to get back. And that's why Concussed is so uh, understanding of it, that we want you to understand this invisible injury. All right, I want to take you, just before we let you go, I'm going to bring Jordan up in a second. We're going to talk a little bit about goaltending. Now that you're in the position you are, obviously you're going to talk to Scott, and then he's going to be the one. We can do it virtually today, especially in the situation that you're in. You're going to have a virtual call with Scott. If Scott feels that you need to go in and see him, we'll make that plan. But right now, the way I hear you talk, the way you're animated, you seem to be in control, and that's what's important about this situation. And some of the things that you said, I really want to point out. You said when you were concussed, you just weren't thinking right. So obviously your decisions aren't exactly clear. And on top of that, you going back and playing goal like that, you can put yourself in harm's way again because obviously your reflexes aren't the same. So thank you for doing that on your own, and I think it's so important. Final question comes from Jeff Lederman. Before that, I've got Robert Wine. He's one of those guys that have been through a battle. He's physically disabled through an accident. No, a choice. It's not an accident. You weren't involved in an accident. You were involved in a choice. The guy that was driving your Mustang had a choice to not do what he did, right? And so Robert keeps reminding me that it was not an accident what happened. So he basically has said that he looks at you right now. He looks at me. He's looked at Jordan, and he sees Keith Primo on the screen. And though we've gone through concussions and still have somewhat of an effect from it, he says it's invisible. With him, it's visible, and people kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. Oh, can I help you? Again, an invisible sufferer. That's what you are. You're going through things, and people don't know that. If somebody looks at you right now and say, there's nothing wrong with Ian. He's faking it. He's not going to work. He's faking it. He wants to get a day off, right? I know you're not faking it because he ain't going to play hockey. And so we know that you're not faking it. Jordan, if you don't mind, just bring up Jeff Lieberman's, and then we'll do Barry Shelley, and then I want you two guys to discuss a very important topic. Ian, why do you think sports teams don't take care seriously? What do you think it's going to take for a gentleman like him get people to really understand about concussions and to really do something about it that takes the money factor out of it? Very long-winded question, a very long question. I apologize that, and I'll sum it up like this. Jeff is down in the United States. There is a huge epidemic with concussions, and people don't know, from gymnastics, from swimming, as we mentioned, from horse riding, falling off a bike, all that sort of stuff. And people just haven't taken it as serious. Obviously, we watch the NFL, the CFL, the NHL, football, rugby over in Australia, New Zealand. The sporting teams don't put a heavy emphasis on it. So our kids are watching these icons play, smash each other, and they continue on playing, yet we don't expect that of our children. Could you just give me a thought? Because obviously you got a concussion from sport. Now you've got one with a car accident. Why aren't we taking it as serious as what it is?
I think there's a lot to do with there's a real emphasis for pro athletes to perform. I played with guys who went on to play in the NHL and currently are doing so, and they have pressure on them despite the fact that they are normal people like you, me, and the kids on the sports teams that are getting that extra care. They have this, pressure on them to perform regardless of their physical state, and I think there's this sort of bubble that is put on those players where you expect them. They're in great shape. They're working out every day. They're doing what they can to treat their body as well as possible. And people seem to think they can't get hurt, where that's not true. It's not accurate. And you have to burst that bubble and go, these are real people. Doesn't matter what team it is, what like sport it is. The people need to be looked after.
Yeah. Hey, listen, obviously we can't thank you enough, Ian, for coming and sharing your story. We're going to keep on top of this. We're going to talk, obviously, over the next couple of days. We'll get you to talk to Scott, make sure you're okay so that you can get back and play net, of course, which is really important. I do want to bring Jordan up here for a second, but here's really important. I know that you're a hockey fan. I understand the concussion, maybe that added because of you're a Leafs fan, but ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Mitch Marner has scored to go up 1-0 against the Golden Knights. Hey, Jordan, join us for a sec.
Hey, Gooch. It's Ian.
Hey, great to have you. Thanks, Jordan, for taking care of us and putting the show on. Listen, I do want to ask you both, not specifically, I know you're not doctors, and certainly you are not helmet manufacturers, but you guys are goalies, and you're taking shots anywhere from 50 to 100 miles an hour. It's dinging off your head. You've obviously all had that. I still can't understand when I take a slap shot when I was good, hitting you in the chest pad. I know it hurts, right? You take that thud, but you just continue on. The grit that a goaltender has is amazing. when you guys have had your helmets as they've developed over the years, was one of the questions. Is there anything more that manufacturers can do? Obviously, you want to make sure that it's comfortable and it fits properly. But first, you, Jordan, you coming through and having your concussions, would a better helmet have helped you, do you think, in any of the situations you were put into?
I mean, when I was playing junior, I had probably like I had a top of the line helmet. So I mean, you can't really get much better than that. But I mean, if you look at kind of my time in prep school, where I had probably two or three alone, and I was using like an old kind of really thin Bauer helmet, and it started fraying at different places, and all that just kind of adds up, and it could lead to another issue down the road. But granted, there were companies who were kind of making different insider paddings like Maltese and those guys that kind of just made the helmet fit a little bit better. But I mean, again, like it's a tough topic, but I do know they have come a little bit of a distance.
Well, Jordan, just before I asked the same question for Ian, but I wanted to know also, a lot of people don't realize, both you being goaltenders, that it's the rotational one that I talked about. You being down at a low position and a skater coming and hitting it from the side. There's not much you can do about that, right? Have you had one of those? Have you had a concussion where you've been down and a knee comes to your head, Jordan?
Yeah. That was back in high school. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Ian. I want to ask you the same question. Obviously, Jordan answered it very well about the mask. Is there anything you think they could do to help alleviate any of the? Obviously, if you get hit directly in the head, right? Let's say the slap shot is 75 miles an hour. You guys feel that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you definitely feel it. You hear birds chirping pretty quickly.
Well, yeah.
You can picture the little circle like the cartoons.
Have you actually experienced that, Ian?
Yeah, absolutely. I've taken pucks to the head. I actually just bought a brand new helmet today because it didn't survive. My other one didn't survive the crash. My gear was in the trunk and it got smushed. Wasn't gonna trust it again. I think goalie helmets have come a long way. The paddings inside of them, the ability to slow down whatever the impact is that's coming to you. From a design standard, there's still obviously that frontal area, between your forehead to your eyes, where if you're gonna take one there, it's gonna hurt. If there was a way of helping that, and then also side impact, goalie helmets are not designed to take any impact.
Right. Yeah. You're right. Good point. Yeah.
I mean, I work in the car world, and I deal with cars that have occasionally, like we've had to repair them and stuff like that. Cars are designed to slow down whatever the accident is coming towards the people, and goalie helmets, similar idea. It needs to slow down the shock to the head, and I think if they can do it from more angles than what they're currently doing, the helmets will just get better. But definitely with goalies, there's a lot of exposed area on the side of the heads where if you get hit, you're probably not going to be feeling great when you get off the ice.
All right, just as I let you guys go, I want to ask you the question. You're a goaltender. You got young kids that are playing in that, and they take a hit to the head or a slap shot, and they become anxious. How do you as a goaltender, how do you explain to a young boy or girl that's playing goal to get back at it? I'll first go to you, Jordan, because you've had this experience. How do you do that? Like, how do you just turn the light switch off and say, I'm going to get back in there, do it again?
It takes a special kind of human, because I mean that's like the one thing kind of growing up as a goaltender everyone asked me about. A shot to the head, does it hurt? And you kind of just move past it at a young age. It probably didn't hurt as much, but as these shooters got better, as I got a little older, it definitely kind of struck me. I mean, I didn't know too much about concussions at the time either, so I'm sure that did play a part in it as well. So,
well, Jordan, I can't thank you for joining us for a few minutes. I'll say goodbye to Ian here. Thanks for producing the show today. Ian, thank you again. I want to thank you for your courage, your vulnerability of opening up and allowing us to understand this invisible injury a little bit more. Obviously, getting people to understand that you got to speak up. Don't fake it. Don't go through it alone. We are here. There are lots of great organizations around the world that can help you, and I'm really, really honored that you phoned me to help you through it, and I will do that for you and continue on making sure that you get through this and we get you back in net. And hopefully, we're going to be doing an event, and I'm throwing an invitation out to you. It's going to be a 3-on-3. We need some goalies in December, starting on the 30th. It's going to be just a fun 3-on-3, just like a pond hockey. And Ian, I'm going to send you an invite. See if you can maybe get a team. It's for concussed and mental health. Raise a couple of bucks and also educate people along the way. That was a shameless plug.
I'm looking forward to it. I'll take any excuse to get back on the ice. I'm dying to play as it is. Missing hockey on tomorrow night. I'm not gonna risk it. I'm gonna take a few more days, and it kills me inside. I'll probably go to the rink just to watch it.
Go do that, and hopefully Scott gives you clearance on Thursday, and you're back at it. Ian Smith, thank you. Thank you very much for your courage. Unbelievable.
Anytime there, Kerry. Thanks.
Ian, stay in touch. What a great show. Listen, the vulnerability of a person that's going through concussion. We've heard Jordan talk about it. We've now heard Ian. Just after a serious car accident, he's able to articulate very well and what we need to do as a family. We are a family. And concussed is obviously understanding the invisible injury. And I couldn't have done it without Jordan, my producer, but also without the Fired Up Network. Listen, we'll be back next week again. You have questions, please just send us an email and we will make sure that we answer them and give you help. If you're concussed or you feel somebody in your family is concussed, reach out 24/7. I am always there for you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking a few minutes with us.